Hey y'all, welcome back. Welcome to my kitchen floor. I don't think I've done a video from my kitchen floor yet, but here we are. I got Boomer in the background with me today. It's just me and Boomer today. But I'm doing some seed starting and I thought I'd take y'all along the ride. So here we go. There are a lot of different methods to seed starting. So disclaimer up front is this is not necessarily the best way to do seed starting or the only right way to do seed starting. This is just the way I do it and what's working for me. So if you have been following along with us and you saw, I guess it was my latest high tunnel update, you saw that my lettuces in my high tunnel are pretty pathetic right now. I'm not getting great germination. I tried to direct sow all of the lettuce in my high tunnel. I was trying to skip that whole seed starting and transplanting step, and I was hoping that I would get good germination by just direct sowing, and that has not been the case for me. I've gotten very poor germination actually. So I'm just gonna go back to the basics, do some seed starting today, specifically lettuce. I'll show you everything that I'm using to get it going, and hopefully it's helpful to you. I do want to encourage you that seed starting doesn't have to be this big, expensive task that you take on. It can be really expensive, and you can get all those really cool grow lights and just all the setup and really get into it and really spend a lot of money. And that would be awesome if I had that money to spend to buy all those really awesome things, but I don't. So my setup here is extremely simple. I'm gonna turn you around here in a minute. I'm gonna show you what I got set up, and it was pretty cost effective, or at least for us it was. So don't be overwhelmed by the cost when you go look up things like the shelving and the grow lights and all that stuff. It doesn't have to be really expensive, and you can still be successful seed starting. Okay, y'all, this is it. This is my seed starting setup for now. This is very cost effective. It's not fancy, it's not pretty, but it gets the job done. So I'm just gonna walk you through what all I have and roughly how much I spent for all of this, and maybe it'll be helpful for you. So I'll start by saying that this shelving unit, this is brand new. I just bought this the other day at Lowe's. It was $30. It's so, I mean, you can see it's 3 shelves. So $30 for this. I do have the larger version of this that's, really tall. It has 6 or 7 shelves on it. And that is what I have started seeds on in the past. And really that's kind of what I need for the scale that I'm starting seeds for. This really isn't quite big enough, but for the home gardener, this is perfect. The reason I don't have my big shelf is because somehow it found its way in the garage, and it is currently storing a bunch of stuff in the garage, and I just have not wanted to take all the stuff off and find new homes for all that stuff. And so anyways, for now, I'm just going to make this work, and then I'm either going to get my butt in the garage and clean off the big shelf, or I'm just going to purchase the big shelf in the future. So this small shelf came from Lowe's. It was $30. These grow lights, y'all, these aren't legit grow lights. They're not advertised as grow lights. These are shop lights. These I've had for a couple of years. I bought them off Amazon. I want to say they were roughly around $40, and there were, I think, 8 lights total that came with it. So 8 lights for about $40. This is year 2 or 3 that I'm on with them, and they're still working. These are the little S-hooks here. This chain was a 10-foot section of chain, and I just cut it myself, equal lengths, in order to hang all of these lights. So between the chain and all those little S-hooks, I think I spent roughly $8 on that. You don't necessarily have to have the big fancy grow lights. They're awesome and they're great, and I wish I had some of my own, but I have not shucked out the money to buy my own. So this is what I use for now, and I'll continue to use these until they go bad, and then maybe I'll actually invest in some legit grow lights. But for now, these guys get the job done for me. I have had people ask me, I do have that greenhouse outside, that window greenhouse. If you have that greenhouse, why aren't you starting seeds out there? And that's a good question, but it's because I don't have a lot of control of the temperature in that greenhouse. For lettuce in particular, I need it to be pretty temperature controlled. We're still getting into some 80-degree days right now, meaning in that greenhouse, it's going to be closer to 90 in there. So it's pretty hot, and those seeds likely aren't going to germinate in the greenhouse. So what I'm doing is starting them indoors where I have much more control over the temperature. And then once they germinate and they're starting to look healthy, I'll harden them off outdoors, and then they'll go into the ground. Which you'll also need for seed starting, seeds obviously. Today I'm just doing lettuce. I've got a small packet. This is really not enough for the scale I'm wanting to grow on. However, I've not ever grown this, so I kind of wanted just to test it out before I bought a whole bunch. What I started out in the tunnel was all from Johnny's Seeds. It was magenta, I think it was called Cherokee and Muir, if I'm saying that right. I think it's M-U-I-R. I started all of those. I did get a little bit of germination, so I can test those out. That's another one I've never grown. So I'm kind of just, I feel like I'm in the testing phase of what's going to grow best to sell to people and what's also going to grow best in my tunnel for me. I chose those 3 that are in the tunnel now because they came recommended. I've heard multiple people tell me that those are good lettuces to grow and people like them. So I will, what's germinated out there, we will try that out and we'll see how it goes. But then I bought this, it's called 5-Star Greenhouse Lettuce Mix. It's from Johnny's. Show you that. And the reason I bought this was because it had really good reviews. And it is specifically made for greenhouse growing or tunnel growing, I should say. So I'm going to test this one out today, see how it goes. But obviously for seed starting, you're going to need some seeds. You'll also need some sort of seed starting mix. And I don't have the bag in here, but I'll tell you what I prefer to use. I used it last year and I'm using it again this year. It's SunGrow Professional Growing Mix. That came recommended to me from a local flower farmer who starts a lot of seeds. She told me about that. It seems to be the most cost effective for me to get, and it worked really well for me last year. I got it from a local nursery here in town. It came in this giant compressed bale. I think it was 3.8 cubic feet, I think is what it was. Last year, I'm still using what I bought last year. Last year it cost me just over $40. I want to say after tax and everything, it was around $42. When I go back to buy more, I'm just about out of what I bought last year. When I go back to buy more, I'm assuming it's going to be more just because the cost of everything has gone up recently. It's made of peat moss and a little bit of perlite. So there's no nutrients in it really, which is okay. I didn't have any issues getting my seeds started without nutrients. What I did last year I used it for all of my peppers, tomatoes, basil, all of that for my spring and summer garden stuff. What I did last year was I started my seeds, and as the seedlings grew, if I noticed that there were any sorts of, hey now, I have my coffee around here somewhere, Boomer's gonna knock it over. Don't be knocking my coffee over. I don't know what I did with it. If I noticed any sort of nutrient deficiency in my seedlings, I would just fertilize with some fish emulsion. The last thing you'll need for your seed starting is some sort of plug tray. They come in all sorts of cell numbers, or you'll need a soil blocker. I don't soil block. I really want to try to get into that. The more I'm learning about it, the more it sounds really promising. Sounds like it makes for some really healthy seedlings. It's just not something I've gotten into right now. So today we're going to be using just plug trays. The plug trays I have, I'm going to show you here in just a minute. They look pretty rough, and I'll tell you why. It's because they were free. I got them last year from a local strawberry farmer. So I went and got all I could get. I got hundreds of them. They were all 50 cell and 72 cell trays. So that's why I'm using what I'm using today. Ideally, if I had bought my own trays for lettuce starts, I probably would have done something with a higher cell count, but I'm going to go with the 72 cell plug tray today because that's what I have. It's free. I'm going to use them until I can't use them anymore. They are looking a little rough, but free is free, right? I'm going to show you the lazy man's way of seed starting and where it got me. So I did not have my lights. They were in storage. The shelving, like I told you, was in the garage. I didn't want to take the time to get all of it set up and, just all the things. And so I thought, well, I'll just, throw some seeds in one of these trays and I'll let it sit by the window. It'll be fine. They might be a little leggy. No big deal. It'll be fine. Well, I don't know what I was thinking. But anyways, let me show you. This is a little embarrassing, but this is what you get. Can you see that? when you don't take the time to start seeds properly with a grow light. These are kale. I need to restart these. A lot of them had died because once they started getting so leggy, I was just like, forget it. I'm going to start these over. So this is kale. These are very leggy because they were not started with a grow light. When I say leggy, see how tall they are? They are so tall. That's not a good plant start, y'all. These guys were really reaching for the light. I mean, they were in direct sunlight in my house all day long, but this is just what they do when they don't have a light source really close to them. They start to reach for the light. They get really tall, which is called leggy. So at this point, they're really weak, and they're just not great seedlings. And as they start to develop their true leaves, what's going to happen is they're going to get really heavy. They're going to fall over. They're just not... They're not ideal. You want the healthiest seedling possible to go in the ground so they have the best chance at growing into a big, healthy plant for you to harvest. So, you know, I could baby these guys and they'd probably be okay and I could make them work, but I'm just going to trash these, restart them, and do it the right way. New angle here. I'm going to have to crouch to fit in this frame. So all my videos are shot on my phone, so hence the reason they're not just super professional, but we're gonna make this work. Okay, so I've got my 72 cell tray here. I like to put them in a tray on the bottom because these are going to be in my house and I'm going to be watering them frequently, and I don't want a bunch of water on the floor. That being said, a smart person would probably do this outdoors, but I like to create extra work for myself, so I'm gonna have to clean up all the dirt and stuff that goes flying when I do this. Okay, so seed starting mix in my kitchen bowl. This is just how I do things. So we pour it in. I thought this was going to be enough. It may not be enough. We'll see. And then just spread it. So if you're new to seed starting, one of the rookie mistakes I made when I was first gardening and starting seeds and whatnot, and I didn't know that seed starting mix was a thing. I thought you just bought some potting soil and you put seeds in there and they were good to go. Well, I did that. I just bought regular potting mix and was really confused why I got very little germination, and what germination I got, they were very unhealthy little seedlings and they just didn't want to grow. Well, it was because I had potting mix that was really thick. It wasn't light and fluffy like this. Seed starting mix has to be really light and fluffy because those little seedlings are so tender and vulnerable. They have to be able to spread their roots really easily. So it's got to be something that's just real light and fluffy. So anyways, all of the mix gets spread around here. I'm going to have to pause you and go get more. Because I did not bring that whole bale of seed starting mix in the house. Because it's heavy. Okay, hold tight. I'm gonna go get some more and finish filling this tray, okay? Okay, and we're back. So just finished filling all the cells, and I just like to, the way I do it, everybody has a different method, but the way I do it is just obviously use my hand and just evenly, I'm not pressing down hard or anything, I'm just letting the mix fall in there and get it even to the top, and then I'll show you what I do. Okay, so I've got my seed starting mix filled here. So all I'm gonna do, I've got this on a basket. All I'm gonna do here is just take it, I'm gonna whack it on the floor a couple times. Okay, maybe more than a couple. And so what that does is kind of compresses it down a little bit. It's hard to tell on video, but the seed starting mix has kind of sunken in the trays. It just kind of pressed it down. And instead of filling it, actually there's a couple that I'm going to go ahead and put a little more in because it's a little lower than what I want it to be. But instead of filling it back to the top, this is when I'm going to put my seeds in. And so I'm going to put a seed per cell, and then I'm just going to cover it with more seed starting mix here, okay? I like to put 1 seed per cell. Some people like to put more than 1 seed per cell to get a better, guarantee a better germination rate, because you know not every seed is going to germinate. You don't always get 100% germination, but I like to do 1 seed per cell just because I like to see what kind of germination the seeds are giving me, you know? So let's start seeds. Okay, that is done. I will say that I didn't do 1 seed per cell because those things are so tiny. There are a few cells that have maybe 2 or 3 in them, but that is what it is. So, and then I'm just going to come in here and lightly cover up every cell with the same seed starting mix. Okay, and we are done with that. So seeds are in, they're covered. Now we water. Okay, we're gonna water. Most people would do this with a watering hose outdoors, but here we are at my kitchen sink. We're gonna use my kitchen sink to water these plants because we're already inside. What you want to watch for is, you know, you don't want your water stream to be so powerful that it drives the seeds down too deep. So I'm gonna pan you down here and try to show you. I'm trying not to show you how dirty my sink is right now. I'm gonna pan you down just enough here. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it on the shower setting, and all I'm gonna do is just take it in and run it through, making sure to get all of them, but especially those side cells, because those are the ones that kind of get neglected sometimes. Good and watered there. I'm gonna flip it around and get the other side. Okay. Feel pretty good about that. I'll keep an eye on them today to make sure they don't get dried out. This water will kind of soak through. They may need another watering today, and then after that, I generally just keep an eye on them, and if it's looking like things are starting to get dried out, then I'll water them again and make sure everything stays nice and moist and wet in there for them, but not overly wet, because then you're just going to kill them. You're going to get like root rot and all that mess. So now we take it over to our tray, and we put them on our tray. Okay, and so here we are on our little tray. The cool thing about hanging the lights this way is that these can be raised. I'll just raise them up, you know, per link. They can also be moved in and out. So if they're too far out, they may be a little too far out. I'll probably move them in a little bit. But like I said, the lights aren't going to come on until I see the very first sign of germination. I'll turn them on now just to show you. They're pretty bright. But once I see that very first sign of germination, then the lights will come on. They'll stay in the house for, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks. I kind of just play it by ear and see how they're looking and how they're growing. And then when I feel like they're starting to get good and healthy, they'll need to be hardened off outside. So that's an important step you don't want to skip. If you're starting seeds indoors, they have to go through a hardening off phase where you take them outside. So these guys will, once they've reached that point where I feel like they can be hardened off, they'll go outside for, you know, maybe an hour a day, and they'll get hardened off, and they'll get to a point where they can stay outside 24 hours a day. Maybe over the course of a week, they could be hardened off. And then they'll go into the tunnel, and they should be nice, healthy seedlings. They shouldn't look like these kale seedlings down here and be super leggy. They should be nice, pretty little seedlings, and they should give us a good harvest. Okay, y'all, that's what I got for you today. I'm going to finish starting seeds. That's not quite as many as I wanted. Something else I did fail to mention is if you know how many seedlings you want to start with, like if you know how big your bed is and you know how many seedlings you want to put in that bed, I would start a few extra just because typically you're not going to get 100% germination. And then of the ones that germinate, some may still not make it out as healthy little seedlings for you. So start a few extra to give yourself that guarantee that you'll have enough seedlings to put in the ground. So I will start a few extra because I know how many I want. I know how many I want to go in the tunnel. But yeah, I'm going to get started on that so these guys can get growing and we'll have something good to put in the tunnel pretty soon. Hope y'all have a good weekend and we will see you next time.